I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome to all, and thank you all for coming out to tonight's meeting of the Peoria Planning and Zoning Commission. We're going to start off by taking roll call. Commissioner Nancy Golden.
Present.
Commissioner Bill Lewis.
Present.
Commissioner Jay Atlowski is absent. Commissioner Jeff Nelson.
Present.
Commissioner Lee Strickman is absent, and Commissioner Mitch Bolnick.
Present.
I'm going to read an opening statement. This commission is composed of the Peoria citizens who have been appointed by the City Council to serve on the commission as a civic responsibility without compensation. Our duty is to study and review planning and zoning issues within the City of Peoria and then forward our recommendations to the City Council. All hearings are conducted in accordance with rules for procedures and Robert's Rules of Order. Each case will be called in the order in which it appears on the agenda unless otherwise announced during the meeting. In the interest of maintaining a fair and efficient hearing, the Commission adheres to the following steps. Chairperson calls the case. Staff gives a brief report and recommendation. Applicant gives presentation. Opposition and support gives testimony, limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Applicant may give rebuttal, and Commission discussion and decision. Anyone wishing to speak must complete a speaker's request form and hand it to the planning assistant on my left. Be as brief as possible and do not repeat statements already made by others. Anyone wishing to protest the decision of a commission public hearing item must request a second public hearing before the City Council. The request must be submitted in writing to the Planning and Community Development Department within 10 days after the Commission's hearing. All Commission recommendations on public hearing items move forward to a regular City Council meeting. The City Council will then act on the recommendation of the Commission. They may concur with the decision, modify it, or overturn it. We welcome citizens' comments, and fellow citizens of Peoria, we thank you in advance for your participation. Before we get started, the City received an email from the appellant withdrawing their appeal of the City Planning Division's approval of the site plan, which is on tonight's agenda, item 11R, described as PR 04-02A.1, Arrowhead Business Park Appeal. As a courtesy to anyone who might be here for this matter, we are taking agenda item 11R and corresponding 1C out of order and addressing item 11R now. Do I have a motion to accept the appellant's withdrawal of the appeal?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the appellant's recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion from Commission Member Bill Lewis. Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, the motion's been moved and seconded to accept the appellant's withdrawal of appeal. Is there any discussion? Okay, please vote. Okay, it passes unanimously. The appeal is withdrawn and the hearing is vacated. I should say that to call to submit the speaker request forms, this is the final call to submit speaker request forms. If anyone wishes to speak, please fill out a speaker request form and provide it to the staff seated on my left at the end of the dais. The consent agenda is for items that are routine in nature and consists of 4 items tonight. One is 1C, hold an authorization to hold an executive session pursuant to ARS 38431.03A3, discussion and possible action to authorize the holding of an executive session for the purpose of discussing or consultation for legal advice with the attorney or attorneys of the public body pertaining to PRO 402A.1 Arrowhead Business Park. That has been vacated. Disposition of absence, 2C. Discussion and possible action to approve or excuse the absences of Secretary Sean Hutchinson and Commissioner Nancy Golden from the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on March 3rd, 2016. Discussion and possible action to approve and excuse the absences of Chair Lee Strickman, Vice Chair Leonard Spraker, Secretary Sean Hutchinson, Commissioners Nancy Golden, Bill Lewis, Jeff Nelson, Jay Alowski, and alternate member Mitchell Bolnick from the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on March 17th, 2016. 3C is the minutes. Discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission held on March 3rd, 2016 and March 17th, 2016. And then 4C, CU 15-0020, Gus Pizza Outdoor Dining. Discussion and possible action to consider a request for a conditional use permit to convert an existing 2,400 square foot patio into an outdoor dining area located at 10738 North 75th Avenue within the immediate commercial C2 zone. Commission members, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lewis?
I would make a motion that, seeing as how the Arrowhead Business Park appeal has been removed from our agenda, that we remove item 1C, authorization to hold an executive session, from the consent agenda.
Okay, I have a motion to remove 1C from the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to remove authorization to hold an executive session 1C. Please vote. Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
And Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lewis.
I understand that staff also has some further information regarding item 4C, that's CU 15-0020, Gus Pizza Outdoor Dining. And I would make a motion that we move that to the regular agenda.
We have a motion to remove 4C from the consent agenda and place it on the regular agenda. I need a second on that.
I second the motion.
Okay, Commissioner Nelson, thank you. Please vote on the, any discussion on the motion? Please vote. Okay, motion passes unanimously. We'll place that under new business.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lewis.
Okay, now I move for approval of what's remaining on the consent agenda, which is items 2C and 3C.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Lewis to approve the consent agendas, items 2C and 3C. I need a second on that.
I second the motion.
Okay, Commissioner Nelson seconds. Please vote. Okay, the rest of the consent agenda passes. Okay, next up on the agenda is unfinished business. We have 5R, which is conditional use permit 15-0021 for Speedy Pawn. A public hearing will be held to consider the request for a conditional use permit to allow a pawn shop use within immediate commercial C2 zoning district. The applicant is proposing to occupy the existing building on site. The property is more specifically described as an assessor's parcel number 142-08-010A. Staff, can I have a report on this?
Members of Commission, good evening. My name is Randy Proch. Tonight's item is CU 15-0021, a conditional use permit as stated for Speedy Pawn. This is a former 7-Eleven convenience store located at 8323 West Peoria Avenue. For a little bit of context, this is within the shared parking lot for Wong's Jr., a Chinese restaurant, and Taco Bell. The site is 1.1 acres in size, and the proposed use is a pawn shop, which requires a conditional use permit. A little bit further context around the area. There are some single-family homes to the north and west. The State Trailer Supply Commercial Center is to the northeast. To the southeast, again, are two restaurants, Wong's Jr., Taco Bell, and then across 83rd Avenue is Wendy's. To the south and west is Osuna Park and the Center for Performing Arts. On the right-hand side of the PowerPoint, you'll see the zoning map. This use is to be located in C2, intermediate commercial, which is generally surrounded by other commercial zoning districts. So here are the limitations for a pawn shop. It does require vehicular access from arterial streets. It is bounded by 83rd Avenue and Peoria Avenue, and requires a 1,000-foot separation distance between the following uses you see on the screen, including body piercing studios, non-chartered financial institutions, other pawn shops, retail liquor stores, plasma centers, tattoo studios, adult uses, or any sort of correctional facility or state local alcohol reception center. The applicant did provide a list of uses, and none of these uses are located within that 1,000 feet. To the right is a visualization of one of the stipulations of approval, notating some site improvements that are not currently on site. This includes a right-hand turn arrow painted on the egress point and a right-hand turn only sign adjacent to the stop sign. With our public outreach, the notice of application and the notice of hearing were sent out to residents within 600 feet and HOAs within 1 mile. The site was posted over 15 days prior to tonight's meeting, and we did receive 1 phone call that was neither in support nor opposition, just looking to get more information about the proposal. We do believe that this is consistent with the zoning ordinance and compatible with the surrounding area as far as the use goes. This will operate in a manner that will not negatively affect the adjoining uses, and the applicant has submitted a signed and notarized Prop 207 waiver. Our recommendation is to approve item 5R, CU 15-0021, subject to the conditions of the approval outlined in the staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions from the commission for staff? Yes, Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the background material, it said the business is currently located in Wagner Plaza 2, an existing non-conforming use. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, what that means?
I can. Commissioner Nelson, let me utilize the mouse here. Wagner 2, I don't believe is actually on the screen, unfortunately. It's just here to the left in C3. Mm-hmm. C3 is a zoning district that's specific to the Old Town area. It does not include pawn shops as a permitted use. Oh. C3 is a relatively newer zoning district. The current location has been in operation prior to that zoning.
Oh, I see.
So as it stands as a legally operating business, it is legal nonconformity. So this would actually remove the nonconforming use from the existing plaza and come into conformance with C2.
Perfect. May I ask a follow-up question? Yep. So in the background material, it said there are no planned improvements to the building at this time. I went and visited that building. It's looking a little rough, to say the least. Does that mean that they're not going to be required to do any improvements to make it a little more visually appealing?
Commissioner Nelson, they are not required to, no. The applicant can speak further on if they wish to go forward with that. Something to consider, any site modification would require the site to come into full conformance. So this was a chance to use a underutilized vacant site that's really sat for about 10 years. And
looks like it.
Yeah, and certainly this would be a step in the right direction, having a use in the building.
Okay, so it's, as I'm understanding you, it's up to the applicant to make those improvements. We're not, as a city, requiring them to do so.
That's correct.
Aesthetic improvement, including landscaping, nothing like that.
And so the use can inherit the site as is.
Okay. And then a final question. Would a project like this require us to run it by the police department to ensure that they have no issues with this? Or is that not something we would traditionally do?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Nelson, part of the routing for our applications, including conditional use permit applications, is that they get routed through the police department or one of the reviewing departments within the city structure.
Thank you. Okay, so they've had a chance to review this, and
Correct.
they had no issues, I assume, with it. Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, are there any other questions from commission members? Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing. Is the applicant present? Yes. Would you like to speak? Okay, is there any speaker request forms on this issue? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Are there any comments from the commissioners before the vote? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lewis.
I move for approval of conditional use permit 15-0021 as outlined in the staff report.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Lewis. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Commissioner Nelson seconds. Any further discussion? Okay, please vote. It passes unanimously. Okay, with no further unfinished business, we're on to new business, and we have a presentation from staff on CU 15-0020, Gus Pizza Outdoor Dining. Staff, will you present your report?
Thank you, Commissioner Hutchinson. Other members of the commission, good evening. My name's Sean Allen, Senior Planner with the Planning Division. Go ahead, next slide. Oh, okay. The applicant is ARC One and Associates, representing the ownership of this business. The business is located north of the northwest corner of 75th Avenue and Peoria Avenue. The request is to obtain a conditional use permit to convert their existing outdoor patio for outdoor dining in conjunction with the existing restaurant. And this is in compliance with the current zoning, which is intermediate commercial, known as C2, which requires a conditional use permit for outdoor dining. This is just an image of the site layout with the patio to the north of Gus Pizza there. The restaurant itself is 5,980 square feet, and as noted before, the patio is about 2,400 square feet, so about 40% of the overall restaurant. The proposal was to operate the patio from 10 a.m. to midnight. They did not include any outdoor music with that, and there is no effort to modify the existing patio. On the perimeter of the patio, there's about a 4-foot tall wall, and at the top of that, the majority of that wall is just a decorative wrought kind of iron look, and so it's a very nice element and feature of the building that's going unutilized. What they propose to do is to add 13 tables to that patio area, which would be the equivalent of about 52 patrons. Key findings on this, as listed in the staff report, it is compatible with the uses in the surrounding area, which are primarily retail. We've got the QT station that's on the corner, and some commercial that is also south of Peoria Avenue. The use is also in conjunction with the conditions of approval, and we have ensured that it will not operate in a manner that's negative or would impact adjoining or adjacent uses. The patio does exceed, as mentioned, it's 40% of the restaurant. The standard usually is 25%, and if they exceed that, then we have to justify that. And we feel that because it's an existing patio that's not being modified in any way, shape, or form, and it's a use that's appropriate for the area, then we feel it's okay for that percentage to be exceeded. So staff recommends approval of case CU 15-0020, subject to the conditions stated in the staff report, with one modification, and that is to condition number 4, as shown in the memorandum that you should have in front of you, and that is that the hours of operation for the patio be limited to 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. And then that would leave Friday and Saturday nights to let them go till midnight. With that, any questions?
Are there any questions from the commission for staff? Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick question on that change. I'm very pleased to see that, first of all. Second of all, I'm just curious, what was the impetus for that? Was that a neighbor that approached us and had a concern, or is this something that the city identified as something we needed to address?
That's a good question. Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. We feel as a staff, we just talked about it, addressed the issue. It's one of the things that we feel that we have to mitigate, being that it's adjacent to residential that's to the west. We didn't think that there really needed to be a huge change there, so that's why we just dropped it a couple hours. Those are the nights that people typically need to get in bed for work the next morning, so we felt this would be an appropriate change.
Great, good work. Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, are there any other questions from the commission? Forgive me, I forget, are we opening a public hearing on this?
Yes.
I'm going to open the public hearing. Is the applicant present? Would you like to speak? Are you in agreement with the staff recommendations? Okay, is there any speaker requests? With that, I'll close the public hearing. Any further questions from the commission? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lewis.
I move for approval of conditional use permit 15-0020, based on the staff report, including the conditions in the staff report, and also the modification of condition number 4 as outlined in the city's memo.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Lewis to approve. Second?
I second the motion.
Commissioner Nelson seconds. Please vote. Okay, it passes unanimously. Next up on the agenda is item 6R, and that is conditional use 16-0001, conditional use permit for Roadrunner Animal Clinic. Can I have a staff report on this?
Good evening, Commissioner Hutchinson, members of the commission. My name is Jennifer Faustino, and I'm with the Planning Department. Tonight I'll be presenting case CU 16-0001, a conditional use permit for Roadrunner Animal Clinic. This application was submitted by RKAA Architects, who is representing Roadrunner Animal Clinic. The subject property is located just north of the northwest corner of 75th Avenue and Cactus Road and is just under an acre in size. The request is to obtain a conditional use permit to operate a veterinary clinic on the subject property. The subject property is the last vacant pad located within the Cactus Square Commerce Park, which is zoned intermediate commercial C2. Directly to the south is CVS Pharmacy, and to the west is an SRP well site. To the north is the single-family subdivision Park Rose, which is zoned Planned Area Development, PAD. And to the east is Columbia Square, which is a commercial center that is also zoned C2. The project site received a variance, conditional use permit, and a site plan approval back in 2008 for an express car wash, but all 3 approvals have since expired due to inactivity. Like the car wash, a veterinary clinic requires a conditional use permit within the C2 zoning district. Here's a conceptual drawing of the proposed site plan. The applicant is proposing a 3,900 square foot building. There are 27 parking spaces shown and 26 are required. The site currently has full access off of 75th Avenue. That will change when the city completes a CIP project for this area in 2017, 2018, which consists of placing a median in the center of 75th Avenue, restricting access to right-in and right-out only. There is a proposed 30-foot landscape area along with an existing retention area located to the north of the building that will buffer the proposed use from the residents. The building will be constructed with a sound transmission control value rating of 55, which will further mitigate noise, and outdoor runs and exercise pens are also prohibited. There is a 23-foot SRP irrigation easement within the landscape buffer. The applicant is working with SRP to verify what type of plant materials can be placed within this easement. Staff will continue to work with the applicant on this matter during the site plan review process, which is currently ongoing at this time. Please note that while the site plan is approved through a separate process, it will have to substantially conform to this configuration. The proposed floor area consists of a reception and lobby area, 5 exam rooms, 2 restrooms, 2 offices, a grooming and bathing area, an x-ray room, a surgery room, a treatment room, a break room, and various ancillary treatment stations and small kennel areas. This location will only serve small animals, and the business hours will be Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., which are normal for this type of use. Most visits to this office will be routine in nature, but there will be overnight care, which will be limited to animals that require such treatment. Boarding and breeding of animals is prohibited at this location, and all medical and biological waste will be stored appropriately within the clinic until properly removed by a licensed provider. Staff does feel that the specified limitations that I've discussed and the key findings for this request have been addressed and/or met, as stated in the staff report. The public was notified as outlined in Article 14-39-6 of the Peoria zoning ordinance. Staff has not received any support or opposition on this proposal. The staff recommends approval for case CU 16-0001, subject to the conditions of approval as stated in the staff report, and staff and the applicant are available for any questions you may have.
Okay, do commissioners have any questions of staff? No. Okay, with that, I'll open the public hearing. Is the applicant present?
He is and does not wish to speak.
Is the applicant in agreement with the staff recommendations?
Correct.
Excellent. Are there any speaker request forms on this? Okay, with that, I'll close the public hearing. And Commissioner Golden.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. The only question I have is, the way I understand it, these animals will never be outside. Is that right?
Yes,
Even the
Commissioner.
ones who are boarded overnight?
Yes, Commissioner Goldman. The only time they will be outside is when they're walking from the parking lot to the building and vice versa.
Oh, okay.
On their way
Thank
to the
you.
building. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the commission? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lewis.
I move for approval of conditional use permit case CU 16-0001, subject to the conditions 1 through 11 outlined in staff's report.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Lewis. We need a second.
Let's keep the tradition alive. I second the motion.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. With that, we'll vote. Okay, it passes unanimously. Moving on, we have, next on the new business under the agenda, we have items 7R and 8R, which I understand will be under one report from the city staff, and we will take up 2 separate votes on them. It is a Z16-0004, Balia initial zoning, and item 8R, Z14-0012, Balia rezone. Staff, do you have your report?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Hutchinson. Members of the commission, good evening. My name is Cody Gleason. I'm a planner with the City of Peoria's Planning Department. The cases you have before you, as Commissioner Hutchinson mentioned, are an initial zoning for one parcel and a rezoning incorporating that parcel as well as the adjacent parcel. As you can see here, both parcels are identified in this map indicating the site. It is at the northwest corner of Pinnacle Peak Road and 67th Avenue. Just a little bit of history for the commission. You may remember that you saw a version of the rezoning request before you back in October. The initial request at that time was for R118 zoning, which was only for the northern part of this current rezoning request. Staff presented the case. The commission voted and recommended approval of the R118 zoning district, identifying a standard of, identifying a minimum lot size of 29,685 square feet per the 2 lots. Additionally, it was identified in the conditions of approval that the dedication of the southern parcel, which was not actually located in the city, be dedicated to the city of Glendale. Now, to try and clarify some of the confusion, the applicant as well as city staff worked together to meet both the city's goals of having the contextually appropriate zoning as well as appropriate access for the site. As a result, staff engaged in annexation of the southern parcel. That is the parcel that's the subject of the initial zoning request, as you can see on your left here. The initial zoning request is for the parcel that is approximately 11,587 square feet. The parcel is currently zoned RU43, which is county zoning, rural 43. The proposed initial zoning district would be the city's comparable zoning district to the county, and that is Suburban Ranch 43 or SR 43. Subsequently, the applicant is requesting rezoning of not only that southern parcel, but also the northern parcel. That rezoning request would be comprised of approximately 70,957 square feet. It would be taking both parcels from the SR 43 zoning district to R135, single-family residential, essentially a minimum of 35,000 square foot lots, and the purpose of which would be for the development of 2 single-family home lots. As you can see here, this location is actually at the jurisdictional crossroads of several areas. As mentioned, the southern parcel, which is the subject of the initial zoning, was previously located in the county. To the east and south, you have City of Glendale, and to the northeast, you have the City of Phoenix. So in staff's goal to bring a contextually appropriate case forward, we met with the other jurisdictions and contacted not only county but the City of Glendale, and in working with the applicant, we brought this request before you for the R135. The reason that it was not incorporated previously is that southern parcel was not annexed into the city. Now it allows for the larger zoning district, the R135, as opposed to the R118. As you can see here, the initial zoning case for that southern parcel would be changing the rural 43 designation to SR 43, which matches the parcels to the north and is within the estate density residential category, as you saw on the previous slide. As you can see here, the rezoning request would then include that southern parcel as well as the northern parcel and rezone both properties to R135, which would be a continuation of the R135 zoning district and make more of a logical continuation of the zoning district from the west to the east, which is the city boundary at 67th Avenue. As you can see here, you do have SR 43 to the north, R135 to the west, the City of Glendale to the south, which is RR 45, basically 45,000 square foot lots. That is also carried over to the east of this property as well. And I will be switching devices. Just a little bit of further detail for the rezoning request. The parcel to the north will remain unencumbered. That will essentially be the developable area that the applicant will be able to develop on. The southern parcel, though it's incorporated as part of this request, will have a right-of-way utility and drainage easement over the parcel so that the city can provide a drainage improvement through this area, as well as the right-of-way component of it would provide access to the two future parcels. So it would be counted as a part of the square footage for the overall rezoning, which would comprise that approximately 71,000 square feet. As you can see to the far east, the furthest east 15 feet will be dedicated as right-of-way from that southern parcel. And in order to prevent direct access to 67th Avenue, during the 67th Avenue improvements along with this drainage project, there will be vertical curb placed along 67th Avenue, which will prevent access to this site from the east. So to the west, the applicant would have their City of Peoria right-of-way access. As mentioned, the site lies within the estate density residential land use category, which allows for 0 to 2 dwelling units per acre. The proposal would be for 1.22 dwelling units per acre for the 2 single-family home parcels. The estate density residential land use category does allow for R135 zoning. We had previously gone over the adjacent zoning districts, so I don't want to bore you with that again. Just a comparison of the 2 zoning districts, the SR 43, Suburban Ranch 43 zoning district, and the R135 zoning district. The biggest comparison would be the square footage of the 2 zoning districts. SR 43, as you might tell from the name, would be 43,560 square feet for each lot. The R135 zoning district requires 35,000 square feet per lot. As the rezoning request is for approximately 71,000 square feet, the applicant is able to divide it into 2 parcels. There is a slight diminishment in the lot width, front setback, rear, and side setbacks. Additionally, the max percent lot coverage is increased from 25% to 35%. Public outreach was completed in accordance with the zoning ordinance standards. So notice was provided to property owners within 600 feet and HOAs within 1 mile. The neighborhood meeting was held on August 24th, 2015 at the Sunrise Mountain Library. For the surrounding jurisdictions, since it is kind of at the cross-section of so many localities, the City of Glendale did not have any concerns or comments in regards to the proposal, neither did the City of Phoenix, and no comment was received from the Deer Valley Unified School District. Staff's findings in regards to the initial zoning request, item 7R, case Z160004, are that it meets the state mandated requirement for initial zoning of recently annexed parcels within the municipal jurisdiction. The Suburban Ranch 43 district allows for a comparable density to that which currently exists with the rural 43 zoning district from the county. And the proposed zoning, the initial zoning district is in conformance with the goals and objectives set forth in the general plan. For item 8R, which is the rezoning request of both the parcels, case Z14-0012, staff finds that the proposed zoning district is in conformance with the goals and objectives of the general plan. The rezoning request is consistent with the densities allowed within the estate density residential land use category. The proposal provides for a zoning district that will allow for the development of compatible scale and intensity, and the rezoning request will better reflect the development needs of the applicant while accounting for the existing built environment surrounding the property. As a result, staff recommends that the commission make two separate recommendations to the City Council. First, item 7R, Z16-004. We recommend that you recommend to the City Council approval of that case. And separately, item 8R, case Z14-0012, recommendation of approval of that zoning case, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. And with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Okay, are there any questions from the commission to staff?
Oh, I don't think you can see our buttons lit, can you?
Oh, no, I don't have the button viewer.
Take him first.
Okay. Sure, Commissioner Mitchell Bolnick?
In the detail you provided, there's an email or letter to you, Cody, from David Brinkerhoff that I didn't see addressed at all. He had some concerns about this. I'm just curious how those are addressed.
Concerns were identified. Staff feels that the continuation of that zoning district is contextually appropriate. Mr. Brinkerhoff did identify that he would like 1 acre parcels. However, the zoning district immediately to the west is R135, which would allow for those smaller parcels.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
Thank you. Cody, could you go back to that slide where you were talking about the right-of-way on 67th Avenue? I know that there is a plan there for those improvements on 67th Avenue, and there's power lines and all that. And in the report, it indicated also that access to the property when developed would be on the west side. Does that mean there'll be no access on 67th Avenue?
Commissioner Lewis, that's correct. There would be no access permitted to the east side. The only access allowed would be to the west.
Only to the west, and that is a stipulation in this?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, with that, I'll open the public hearing. Is the applicant present?
Mr. Chair, are you opening the public hearing, consolidating the public hearing on both matters?
No, separately. So, I'm sorry.
I know that you're going to take separate votes, but are you going to consolidate the public
Can
hearing?
we have one public hearing over the two?
On those, you will need separate votes, but you could consolidate the public hearings.
Then that's what we will do. The public hearing will be for both Z160004 and Z140012. And the applicant is present. Would you like to speak? And you are in agreement with staff recommendations? Yes, I am. Okay. Are there any speaker request forms on this? Okay, with that, I will close the public hearing on both Z160004 and Z140012. Public hearing is closed. Are there any further questions from the commission? Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion on 7R, Z160004.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we recommend approval of case Z160004 to the City Council, establishing the initial zoning of the subject property as City of Peoria Suburban Ranch 43, otherwise known as SR 43.
Okay, we have a recommendation for approval from Councilmember Nelson. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
And seconded by Commissioner Lewis. With that, we will take a vote. And it passes unanimously. We will now need a vote on item 8R, Z140012.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Nelson.
I would move that we recommend approval of Z140012 to the City Council, subject to the conditions of approval outlined in the staff report.
Okay, Commissioner Nelson made a motion to recommend approval for Z140012. Would I need a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Lewis. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Okay, with that, we are moving on to agenda item 9R and 10R. Similar situation. We will hear one report for both GPA 15-0006 and Z150010. This is for bungalows on Olive General Plan Amendment and Olive rezoning. Staff, can we have the report?
Thank you, Commissioner Hutchinson and Commissioners. In getting familiar with the area, the vicinity, we have the Loop 101 directly west, and if we go down Olive to 83rd, this property is on the south of the southeast corner there of 83rd and Olive. There's a Circle K that's located on the corner there, and we have Pioneer Park, City Park, that is directly south, and then in the vicinity there are some residential subdivisions as well. The project area is 14.57 acres. The GPA 15-006 proposal is a minor amendment to the general plan from business park industrial to medium-high density residential, which would be 8 to 15 dwelling units per acre with a target of 12 dwelling units per acre. The zoning request is from intermediate commercial, C2, to a planned area development, otherwise known as a PAD, which I will explain in greater detail in a moment. The development request, along with this proposal, is for a 153-unit multifamily project that would boast some open space that would include connections to the Pioneer Park. And 103 of those units would be detached. The other 50 would be attached. In looking at the current general land use map, we'll see that surrounding this particular area, this 14 acres, we have the business park industrial, which is the current land use, where the Pioneer Park is located, and then we have low-density residential across 83rd, and then also to the north, to the north of that northwest corner, which is commercial and high-density residential. And then directly north is mixed-use community commercial. And then we have a park open space next to that, which is the Roundtree Ranch Park. And then we have the medium-high density residential, which is the same land use that this is asking for to the northeast. The current zoning map there to the right shows that this area is zone C2, and the zoning first came into play about 1980, and so it's been there for quite a while. The history goes that in 2007 was the first development plan that came into the area. That's how we got the Circle K. That was phase 1. And then there was phase 2 of a retail center that was to go in there, and due to inactivity, that expired. And that's how the property has remained since then, is vacant. Just in summary of the land uses, the current land use basically allows for major employment centers, offices, research and development, manufacturing, storage, utility and processing centers, and those similar type uses. Again, we're looking for a change to a residential, a medium-high residential use. The justification for that is that, you know, we have this project located to two major streets, and that it's directly north of the existing park, Pioneer Park. The park serves as a nice buffer from the existing industrial park that we have currently to the east. And so as the purple wraps up around the proposed area, that's part of the Pioneer Park. And so the park is a nice buffer on both the east and the south. Multifamily is a compatible use with some of the surrounding uses. Just to the north is an area planned for multifamily. That's actually larger than what this would be. And the proposed density for this project that we'll go over is at 10.5 dwelling units per acre, so we could see that it falls under that target density. A summary of the development proposal, to get this in your mind, is, again, there's going to be 153 units proposed. They're all going to be single-story. And again, 103 of those will be detached, like a single-family home, and then the other 50 will be attached, and those are going to be all the one-bedroom units. The access is going to be a gated access to the site. Olive Avenue will be the main access to this, and then they'll have a deceleration lane for that, which I will illustrate for you in a moment. Off of 83rd, they've been restricted to just an egress for that site, for that part of the site. This will have perimeter fencing, decorative theme fence, and fencing along the park. The amenities will be a pool, jacuzzi, open grass area, barbecues, ramadas, an interior trail for the site, and then that same trail will connect to the park. And then they will have private backyards that they will fence off. Again, the additional amenities is going to be the two gated pedestrian trail accesses to Pioneer Park, and then they're going to have some courtyards facing unit to unit. The parking is, the required parking is 280. They have provided 295, so they have a little bit of a surplus on their parking. So having mentioned those elements, this is the landscape concept. And if you can follow my mouse here in the boxes, I've highlighted where the amenities are, but basically amenity 1 is the pool, and then 2 is the spa and ramada that's in that same vicinity. Amenity 3 is just to the south. That is the turf and park area. And then over here to the left is amenity 4, which is another ramada, and it's got some benches and barbecues. And interconnecting those amenities through this tree-lined center portion of the site is the trail that goes from east to west through the project, and then it does go south and then connect here where you have the first gated park connection to Pioneer Park. And you can see that the plan is to extend that sidewalk down and connect with the existing park sidewalk. Same thing on this far east side. The trail will connect and provide another gated connection to the east side of the development and Pioneer Park, and strategically extend that sidewalk to an existing park sidewalk. Some of the elements I'll go over with you just real quick as we zoom in on some of these. This is the main entry. It has to meet certain design specifications, which this illustration shows. Some of those are that the medians have to be landscaped. They have to provide some architectural features to enhance that entry, and they have provided covered portico over that second median. They're providing some pavers. They will have a theme wall, which will include there on that east side a identification sign. And then they'll have a code box for the entry to the gates on that second median. And then those gates will be a nice see-through iron type gate. Those gates, if you're wondering, they're not going to be facing north to south. They're going to be facing east to west, and so people will turn in those directions, and those gates are going to be facing that way. This is a zoom in of those amenities that I mentioned, the pool and spa. They're going to have a cool deck around those features with the Ramada. As mentioned, the turf area is just south of that and outside of the fenced pool area, but north of that turf area, you'll have a dog wash, a couple benches, and a barbecue. Amenity number 4 is again another Ramada with a barbecue and some benches. And then amenity 5 is meant to illustrate that trail that goes from east to west and then south to Pioneer Park through the development. It'll be well vegetated. The trail itself will be 6 feet wide, and so that should give plenty of space for patrons to go through there. And then there'll be in different strategic places, they'll have benches for seating. This is the wall plan, the fencing plan, and the red represents the theme wall that goes along the portions of the site that face the public street, and that'll be a 6-foot high wall. The green, dashed green, let's say, is on the east and the south portions or boundaries of that site. And this is supposed to be a solid non-site obscuring or a site obscuring wall because you have the dog park located right in that vicinity. And so the developer felt it would be prudent to have more screening in those areas. And then we have the darker dashed line on the far south. That's facing the lake that's in the park. And so that'll be a partial view fence where you'll have a solid base and then on the top a see-through iron. This is just some detail on those walls. Again, they're supposed to meet certain design specifications that we will ensure through the site plan review, certain features and elements to give it variety in color and in shape. And you can see that one on the bottom left is an elevation of the gate access to Pioneer Park. And they intend to have the trellis on top, so it should look pretty nice. These are just front elevations of the proposed homes, and there's only 3 types that they're proposing. This first one is got the 2 doors, and so that's your 1-bedroom units that are attached. And then the other, plan 2 and 3, are for the 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom homes that will be detached. And then this is a look of the office in Ramada. This slide shows the proposed garages and how those would look. And then we get into some development standards. Again, staff looks at this, when we look at this project, compare it to other like projects, we ask ourselves, well, what makes this maybe better than the average? And I think a few things do stand out. One is, again, we're getting 2 connections to an existing amenity, Pioneer Park, that additional residents are going to be able to take advantage of and enjoy. It's also an appropriate transition of land use where this has sat vacant for many years. And we have the park there and industrial on the other side of the park. We feel this is a good transition and good use for that property. We've got some illuminated pedestrian entrances and landscape sidewalks, and so we're adding those enhanced elements. Another important factor is that their open space requirement is exceeded by about 29%. And the list kind of goes on. And so, again, those park connections are a key element, and the additional amenities. This project is only required to have 4 total amenities, and we've got about 7 with this development plan. The city did follow procedures with notification, noticing applicants within 600 feet and HOAs within a mile radius, and also posting the site. We had a neighborhood meeting on February 1st, 2016, here at the Peoria Community Center, and no one showed. There was no one in attendance, and so there's been no opposition through that venue, and we haven't received anything by phone or email as well. And so by all respects, there doesn't appear to be any concerns from the public. Key findings, basically for the general plan, which is GPA 15-006, 0006, excuse me. We feel that this request does comply with the proposed general plan amendment, which is changing this from business park industrial to medium-high density residential. Also, key findings with the rezone, which is KZ 15-0010. We feel that it is a good companion to the land use amendment. And then again, with the Pioneer Park connections. And another good point to make too is with the existing Circle K, the developer has been in concert with them and honored certain agreements and easements that are in place there with them, and is acting as a good neighbor. First recommendation for, again, case GPA 15-0006 is that we recommend an approval to the City Council. For the zoning case, Z15-0010, we recommend the same, an approval to the City Council, and both are based on the conditions in the staff reports. However, with the zoning, we have an amended list of conditions, and you have a memorandum in front of you if you wish to follow along with that or look on the slide, and I'll just run through these quickly so that you understand those changes. So the first change comes from the Planning Division, which is to just remove Condition 10 as it exists in the staff report. And the reason for that is that we feel that we can handle that with other aesthetic and design issues with the site plan review. The second is from engineering. They completed their third review just after the staff reports were done. And they added this one bullet item, which is that the project must provide retention for the volume of Circle K based on the previous recorded easement. And that is an access easement and drainage easement that they have for that site. In addition, engineering had 3 other conditions. And so in that, we can go ahead and remove 6 and 7 that are in the staff report and replace it with the new 6, 7, and 8. 6 being dry utilities will not be permitted within water line easements. 7, the developer is responsible to construct a deceleration lane at the Olive Avenue site entrance, which actually is illustrated on the current site plan. And number 8, all necessary easements must be dedicated via final plat. The final plat shall be approved prior to the permits being issued for the site. And then just to point out, the existing conditions 8 and 9 that are there in the staff report are to now become 9 and 10 and just shuffle down. I have an exhibit both the aerial and the proposed concept plan for reference. With that, are there any questions?
Are there any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Lewis?
Yes. The ingress and egress to the property, will vehicles leaving the property be able to access westbound Olive and southbound 83rd?
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. They will be able to access westbound on Olive. They will be able to make a left turn
Out of the property?
out of the property.
And the same as
then
southbound 83rd, they'll be able to turn out, turn left?
Go south, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, with that, I will open the public hearing for both. Get the numbers up here. For both GPA 150006 and Z150010. Is the applicant present? Would you like to make a presentation? Okay, please come down to the podium and make sure you include your name and your address.
My name is Paul Gilbert. My address is 701 North 44th Street, Phoenix. It is with a great trepidation that I stand before you. I've seen everyone that hasn't spoken get approved tonight, and I like that tradition. And even though I'm paid by the word, I consider not making any presentation tonight. But this is such a unique concept, and it's an exciting concept that we're developing in several locations throughout the valley. I thought it behooves perhaps a few comments to be made. I don't think I need to regale you with much discussion on the change to high-density multifamily on the general plan. Business Park Industrial next to Pioneer Park, I think, is rather inappropriate and much better suited for what we're proposing. The C2 commercial zoning that's on the property obviously hasn't been developed for a long period of time. It was placed on there when the Circle K was. All four corners have some type of commercial zoning. It's clear that the intersection is overserved by commercial. So those points I don't plan on saying much on. I think they're rather obvious, and staff has done a good job of pointing out to you the need for changes in both the general plan and the zoning. I'd like to talk a little bit about the product, give you a little better idea of what we're proposing. We're focusing on a niche market. These are rental units. I'm keenly aware that for most of you, this doesn't fit the stereotype or concept that most of us have for multifamily. But we're trying to focus on a niche market for renters that don't need the size of a single-family home or do not want the maintenance responsibilities that come with a single-family home. But on the other hand, they do not want the traditional apartment experience with a loud neighbor above or below them. And what we're doing is accommodating them. These are really more akin to single-family homes, but they're being marketed as rental units and as part of a multifamily concept. So each one has a private backyard, but the backyard won't be maintained by the occupant of the unit. It will be maintained by the by the ownership, as is all the landscaping there. But each unit will have a small courtyard and will have a backyard to it as well. I think it's important to focus on the standards. That was a big chart and a lot to digest that talked and juxtaposed the various development standards. Pardon me for quoting the staff report, but I thought it was very insightful. Kudos to the staff for this one. Let me just say, regarding the development standards and the table they presented to you, the bungalows on Olive Development is well below the general maximum standards in density and building height, but exceeds the minimum standard requirements for open space provision and the number of amenities provided. We are doing a very considered job of tying this project in with Pioneer Park. I'd like to talk just briefly about the two connections that the staff pointed out to you. We've got one into the lake area and one into Dog Park. We're not only providing those access points, we are extending the walkway so it goes into the park and isn't just a gate there, but actually extends and goes into the park. We have worked very closely with your staff. This project has been a long time coming to fruition. They've made some good suggestions. We've benefited from them. We believe that we stand before you this evening in the posture of a very exciting, unique project that much more fits the area than what is proposed under either the current general plan or the existing zoning. So thanks for letting me add a little to what has been said by the staff report, and I hope I'm not being naive in breaking the tradition of not speaking and getting approvals. Happy to answer any questions you have.
It's not that traditional. Is there any questions for the applicant, Mr. Gilbert? Commissioner Golden?
I have a couple of questions. I think it's a very interesting concept. And I understand it's a family community. Normally in a family community, we would find play areas or something that has some children impact. I'm assuming that if children are in this community, they'll be playing in Pioneer Park.
Yes, obviously the best asset we have is that huge Pioneer Park, so there's plenty of opportunities there. There's the lake, there's the open space, there's Dog Park, but we're also providing amenities. We have a pool, we have a large common area for use. So we're providing amenities on site, but we're also counting on the park as a major amenity immediately adjacent to us.
And is that an underutilized park?
Commissioner Golden, it's not underutilized. This would just certainly enhance its use. Based on where the park is located, kind of at the edge of Peoria, we would certainly like to have as many Peoria residents enjoy the park as possible, and this certainly adds to that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Are there any, yes, Commissioner Coleman.
I'm curious about the size of that pool. I mean, you have a family area and you have 300 and some people here. Is that size to this kind of development?
Yeah, remember there's only 153 units total here, and so we have sized that pool with that in mind. It would not behoove us to put a pool in that wasn't big enough to serve our residents. We've had considerable experience with the size of pool and this type of development, and we find that to be exactly what we need.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, with that, I will close public hearing. Did I open? I have to.
Would anybody else, were there any other speaker requests?
There were no
Excuse me.
Okay, so with that, I will close the public hearing on both GPA 150006 and Z150010. I am ready, so Commissioner Lewis.
I'd just like to make a comment, maybe a couple of comments about this. I'm always concerned about when we change land designation zoning from commercial to residential. We all know that the greatest majority of our income in the city, the general fund, comes from retail commercial. And so I'm always concerned about that. I'm not necessarily in agreement with Mr. Gilbert's statement that there's at least adequate commercial in that whole area. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think there's industrial, commercial, I think there's a lot of other uses in there, but I'm not necessarily in agreement with that there's adequate retail commercial in this area. I should have stated this in the beginning, but I am in favor of the project. I'm not opposed to the project. I'm just concerned whenever we do that, and I know the staff is the same, and I know you guys always look at that very closely. So I trust your judgment when you guys believe that this is the right idea. And I'd rather see this happen than leave that dirt lot there or leave it vacant for any more time. So I'm hoping that what'll happen here is the reverse of build it and they will come concept, that we put 153 or however many units in here, that will create a need for businesses to come into the area too, to start putting some retail in there. And I understand why they don't. If there's not enough residents there to fund their business, they're not going to build there. So hopefully the other way is going to work on this. And I think it is a cool project. I like the idea. I like the concept of what you guys are doing with the bungalows and all that. So I just hope that this all in the long term for our city turns out to be a good project. So thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners? I have a comment myself, and I'm glad you brought that up, Commissioner Lewis, because I had concerns about it too. And again, I love the concept as well. I'm concerned about, we stated several times in the packet about how the land sat vacant for years. I don't remember Pioneer Park being open that long of a period of time. Are we certain, staff, that we are granting adequate opportunity for attracting businesses to some restaurants or other to feed in or feed out from the park?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, we were speaking of the land has been zoned commercial since 1980, so about 36 years. And when you step back and look at the general area, about every mile intersection is zoned commercial in almost all four corners. So a couple of things we looked at when we looked at this site plan is conditions have changed in the area. While it is designated business park industrial in the general plan, when you look at the actual land uses there, it is not business park industrial. I think the Pioneer Park changed that whole dynamic, and what it does is it introduces the opportunity to have not only residents in close proximity to a park, but it provides eyes on the park, if you will, and I think will further enhance safety in the area. As far as the commercial acreage too, as I indicated, we have a lot of commercial in the area. And one of the things we also look at, we're always very sensitive to the loss of commercial acreage in the city, but what we also don't want to see is an abundance of commercial where it might work to cannibalize existing commercial areas and upset the health of those areas. So that's also a concern and a balance that we seek to provide here. But we think the change in land use is appropriate here. I think it'll be a symbiotic use with a park location there, and so we are in favor of it.
Okay, are there any other further questions or comments from commission? I already closed the public hearing. Okay. With that, I will accept a motion on item 9R GPA 150006.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lewis.
I'm going to recommend approval of case GPA 15-0006 to the City Council.
Okay, we have a motion for recommendation of approval. I need a second on that.
I second the motion.
Okay, Commissioner Nelson seconds the motion. With that, we will take a vote. Okay, we have, it passes with one dissenting vote. Moving on, we will now consider case Z150010. Is there any further discussion on the zoning? With that, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lewis.
I move that we recommend to the City Council approval of case Z 15-0010, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report, in addition to the changes made to the conditions outlined in the staff memorandum that was presented this evening.
Quite a motion. We need a second on that?
I've got the easy job. I second the motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Lewis and seconded by Commissioner Nelson. With that, we'll take a vote. Okay, and it passes with a 3-1 vote. Moving on, we withdrew item 11R from the agenda, so we will not be taking an executive session as well. So we will move on to reports from staff.
Mr. Chair, I think we have call to the public is next on non-agenda items.
Of course it is, because we're going to go to the call of public. Are there any comments from the public on non-agenda items? All right, seeing none. Staff, please give your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real short, our next meetings are regular meetings on April 21st, 2016, and May 5th, also 2016.
Okay. Next is reports from Planning and Zoning Commission. Are there any reports that the commissioners need to make on non-agenda items? Commissioner Lewis.
Not a report, but a question I have perhaps of staff. There's if you can follow me here, on Happy Valley Road, on the south side of Happy Valley Road, east of 83rd Avenue. There's a big sign like we always put up about zoning hearing. It's been up there for a long time. I saw it and I came back around and slowed down to try and see what it was about in that 45-mile-an-hour speed zone there, and almost got creamed by about 6 cars going 80 or whatever. But anyway, so I didn't get to see. Does anybody know what that's about?
Commissioner Lewis, I'm not sure off the top of my head. I don't think we have a case pending. We'll take a look at it. If it's an old sign, we'll make sure that's taken care of and removed.
Okay, it's that lot. It's probably, I don't know, quarter of a mile, maybe not quite a quarter of a mile, but it's east of 83rd on the south side. It's a vacant lot. There's homes to the south, and to the east there's those newer developments.
I think that's an old sign that we need to have taken down. We'll take a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other reports from commissioners? Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
You can just adjourn it.
Okay, well, I'm just going to adjourn it then. We are adjourned.